So WikiLeaks has never had to retract a document. And it's whenever you hear and I'm speaking through the lens of, what you hear in the United States media, all of these smears are just so easily debunked. They're just so like it's almost just surface level. Oh well, he's helping Trump. He's helping Trump. It's just like actually, if you type Donald Trump into WikiLeaks, you're going to see about thousands of unflattering reports. Thousands of unflattering reports. He's a publisher. That's his job. That's what he does. Well, why did he dump the DNC stuff right around October? Like, should he have waited until after the election? Is that what he should have done? Should he have decided the public doesn't need to know this information until after? What sense does that make? He's a publisher. That's what he does. It's stuff that we need to know. It's stuff that the public ought to know. So has anyone brought up some of that stuff? Has anyone brought up look, this is what they do. And they've never had to retract a document. This is what WikiLeaks does, and it's an essential service for the freedom of information in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world.
Yes, because today there was also another defense witness, which was Professor Paul Rogers. He is a political scientist. He specializes in peace studies, and he was talking about how Assange exposed war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan that actually changed the perspective of Americans and their attitudes on war. Maybe not to a great extent, but to some extent, it did change people's perspectives. And I would say, in my opinion, Assange did the ethically appropriate thing. If you were handed material and you're a publisher and a journalist, you are obligated to present that information, of course, if it's correct, and you go through the proper process of verifying everything. But he acted appropriately in that situation. And another point that has been brought up in court quite a bit is also the current climate in the United States regarding President Trump's dislike for journalism and frequent attacks on the press. And it has been brought up that possibly this environment of disliking the media is what's fueling this persecution and prosecution of Julian Assange. Specifically, this witness, Professor Rogers, stated that because Julian Assange has established himself as an individual who is anti-war, anti-imperialist, a little bit libertarian as well, his ideals really clash with U.S. government objectives, goals, and overall foreign policy efforts, I guess. And that makes him, in fact, a target of the United States, which therefore shows that this is a political case. And according to the U.S.-UK extradition treaty, a person cannot be extradited from the UK to the U.S. for political purposes. And it seems that this is a very political case.
Well, and isn't that something that Obama, and I don't think Obama did it directly to Assange. I think it was more Snowden, but he kind of set the standard of when it comes to, whistleblowers and publishers, to kind of see it as criminal instead of political offenses, so that you can be basically more harsh with the intended punishment. I mean, yes. Wasn't that something Obama did with Snowden?
Yes, Obama did definitely go after whistleblowers more than previous presidents, I believe. And one thing, though, and it was brought up in court as well, is that the Obama administration didn't go as far as to prosecute Assange. And the Trump administration is doing that. So it seems that it is political based on the wishes and the perspectives of the current administration. That is not to say that Obama was pro-Assange, but his administration did not go ahead with the prosecution. The witness today said that possibly a reason why Obama chose not to do so was because the leaks surrounding the Iraq and Afghanistan wars really changed people's perspectives on war in the United States. And at that time, of course, Assange and WikiLeaks were more supported by those on the left, those who possibly support Obama as well, maybe his base. And that's also a reason why he chose not to prosecute Assange.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just shows how short-term people's memories can be about this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, I remember when WikiLeaks, they were doing a hero service by exposing these war crimes, and this was a war that was immensely unpopular in the U.S. and rightfully so. Then all of a sudden he says something about the Democrat, or not, he doesn't say something. He publishes something about the Democratic establishment that they don't like. And now he's public enemy number one. And well, wait a second. That's not how this works. That's not how the press is supposed to work. But so what do you think as far as like going forward? What all, like, because we've talked a lot about the defense so far. What has the prosecution really been harping on? Like, what have they been harping on these past 3 days? And what do you see them trying to go at moving forward?
The prosecution is really attempting to discredit claims made by the witnesses in court because they're obviously doing the cross-examination. I hear it's been a little bit testy exchanges at times as well.
Oh, like what? Do you have any, for instances?
Well, I don't have any specific instances, but the prosecution just really seeks to discredit the witnesses and the reasoning for them being there, saying that they're providing opinions. For example, even on the first day of the hearings, there was discussion about the witness testimony. So the defense requested for witnesses to be able to go through their statements they provided to the court so that this information would be made public. And this would allow Assange and the court to hear this evidence before they're cross-examined. And it seems like a pretty fair claim here. And of course, the prosecution came out to say that they opposed this and that it is against the divisional court jurisprudence to be able to allow for statements provided to the court to be made public. So they are trying at every angle that they can to just go against what the defense is proposing. But as far as what we expect to hear from the prosecution, I believe that they will take the angle of, Assange's publications through WikiLeaks led to harm of individuals or potentially put people's lives at risk, which is something that has been debunked time and time again. But they alluded to that the past few days, that WikiLeaks publications could have put people at risk, could have jeopardized their well-being and their lives. But it's interesting because back in February, they had to state in court that there is no evidence to even suggest that this is true.
Well, and I guess the water is muddy because this is going on. This is going on all around the world, but it's the United States who wants to pursue these charges, and those claims do not match up with the free speech laws of the United States. Those claims. Yeah. I mean, you would have to, and I'm not a constitutional lawyer, nor am I, I'm not a lawyer at all, but I do know the basic notions that, unless you straight up defame somebody, which that's not happening here, or unless you incited violence in your speech, which certainly is not the case here. He just published information. He just published documents. I don't know how they could have such a charge.
Right. There is no specific U.S. statute that states that you cannot publish the names of government informants. And also, too, these documents that they're referring to have also been published by the New York Times, The Guardian, and other mainstream publications. But only Julian Assange and WikiLeaks is being held to account. Another part of this case that I want to bring up here, which is something that should be, I think, discussed more, and that is the fact that this hearing should not even be taking place. This should be thrown out of court because Assange's right to a fair trial has been completely infringed upon, because while he was staying in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, he was being spied on by the CIA. Last year, in 2019, El País broke the story that the private Spanish security firm UC Global was contracted by Sheldon Adelson's Las Vegas Sands Corporation at the direction of the CIA to turn the camera system within the embassy, which was first there to protect Assange and to protect the people who work at the embassy. They turned it into a surveillance system and created a separate feed that was being sent to the United States. So they were able to watch and hear everything going on in the embassy. This means that the people behind Assange's prosecution were able to hear his privileged communications with his attorneys, with his doctors, with other journalists. So it's very interesting that Sheldon Adelson's company was involved in this. Again, this is a multi-billionaire, very close to Trump. But I did have a chance to interview Ray McGovern and Bill Binney, and I asked them, how often is it that the intelligence agencies will contract private companies to essentially do their dirty work? And they say it happens all the time. It's quite frightening. And this, the CEO of UC Global, who was being used by the CIA to set up this surveillance system, David Morales, who is the CEO, he said he was proud to be doing this and to be working for the Americans. He was proud to do this. And Max Blumenthal, through the Gray Zone, has reported on the entire incident very extensively. And he said, to be clear, it's very much the United States and the CIA who was using these employees and people involved with UC Global. They are to blame. They shouldn't be taking orders from the United States intelligence, but essentially this was all the idea of the United States government, and nothing has really been done so far. There is a case going on right now in Spain to hold the CEO of that company accountable, but we have yet to see what will come from that.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and